Thank you for coming by and stopping to listen to 60-second shorts. This is this week's compilation, plus an extra one on there added on just for fun. Hope you enjoy. There was a small town that had a pumpkin patch on the outskirts of town. Every year, the townspeople would eagerly await the arrival of autumn so they could visit the pumpkin patch and pick out their pumpkins for Halloween. And their once rounded shapes became twisted and gnarled. The vines that surrounded them seemed to move on their own, and strange sounds could be heard coming from the patch at night. The townspeople began to notice that the people who visited the patch started to behave oddly, as they were under some sort of spell. They became aggressive and irritable, and some even reported feelings as though they were being watched. One night, a group of people were standing out there, and they saw a strange figure emerge from the patch. It was a towering, pumpkin-headed creature with long, twisted vines for arms. The creature had glowing eyes that seemed to stare straight through them. The creature spoke in a deep, menacing voice. "You have trespassed in my domain. You will pay the price for your insolence." In a small town nestled in the mountains, winter brought such joy of snow. The children would play outside, building snowmen with great care, and the adults would enjoy the beautiful winter scenery. But one winter, something strange happened. The snowmen began to appear in unusual places, far away from where anyone had built them. The townspeople didn't think much of it at first, assuming that the snowmen had been moved by some mischievous children. But as more and more snowmen appeared in strange locations, they started to become worried. One night, a group of teenagers decided to investigate the strange snowman. As they approached them, they noticed that it was a little different from the others. It had glowing eyes made of coal and a twisted smile made of sticks. They tried to run away, but it was too late. The snowmen chased them down and gathered them in front of the church, their eyes glowing with an eerie light. They formed a circle and were chanting in a language no one could understand. From that night, more and more snowmen were added to the town, and less people were found in the town itself. Hans lived in the cuckoo clock on the wall of a very old home. Every morning Hans would wake up early to wind the clock, ensuring that it would keep perfect time throughout the day. And as he had his coffee, he would watch the family as they start theirs, keeping perfect track of time for them, always being ready to let his people know that the hour has struck. Hans took his duty as the keeper of time in the cuckoo clock very seriously. He made sure the clock was always in perfect working condition and that it kept perfect time. Whenever the clock needed repair, Hans would fix it himself, making whatever gears or springs is needed. He knew every cog and gear in the clock like the back of his hands. Despite living in the clock, Hans led a very happy life. He loved to sing and dance and spent his days playing pranks on the household pets and reading books that he found. The cuckoo bird in the clock was his closest friend, and the two would often sing together in perfect harmony. As he watched the children get older, he was sad to see them go, but felt accomplished to have gotten them there. There was an eerie old room in an abandoned house that many local kids would challenge their friends to go into at midnight. The room was pitch black and filled with an eerie sound of laughter. No one could last very long in the room and would always sprint out as quick as possible, eager to escape the unnerving feeling that someone was watching them. One day, a new boy Josh joined a group of friends, and the right to join, you had to spend time in the laughing room. Wanting to be alike and part of a group, he went into the laughing room. But after an hour of waiting, the group thought there might be something wrong and went in after him. The group cautiously entered the room, their flashlights illuminating the darkness. They saw Josh standing there in the center of the room, laughing uncontrollably. But as they approached him, they realized something was terribly wrong. Josh was frozen in place with his eyes wide open, staring into the darkness. The laughter that had filled the room suddenly stopped, replaced by an eerie silence. The children tried to move Josh, but he was completely stiff and unresponsive. There was a family who lived in a house on the countryside. They had a large pantry where they stored all their food, and even had a trapdoor into the cellar for wine, and they were very proud of it. One day, the family woke up to find that a pig had somehow gotten into their pantry, had knocked over jars of food, and had made a mess everywhere. The family was quite upset and didn't know what to do. The father of the family tried to chase the pig out of the pantry. The father and the pig slid around the kitchen, over and under tables and chairs, making more of a mess than there was before. But alas, the pig was too fast and kept running away. The mother of the family suggested that they try luring the pig out with some food, but the pig seemed more interested in staying inside the pantry. As the day went on, the pig started making himself more and more comfortable. It made a bed out of some sacks and flowers and started to eat some of the food that it spilled on the floor. And after a day of trying to get it out, the pig now lives in the pantry. And well, at least they drink a lot less wine. There is a group of leprechauns that live in the city of Chicago. They love to play pranks on people, but they have the most fun on St. Patrick's Day. They make a game of it. For the one who finds the most not wearing green and pinches them very hard goes the spoils. But don't worry, they do give good luck to those that do. Sean had yet to win this competition and would get poked fun at. Sean started his search for people that weren't wearing green, and when he would find someone without green clothes, he would sneak up behind them and pull their hair and pinch their arms, making them jump in surprise. But he was having a hard time finding enough people to make him think that he could win. So he decided to cheat the game, and he brought out his pot of gold and traded people a gold coin for their green clothes. And once they took off the green clothes, well, he would pinch them and run away. Those that didn't take him up on his offer would laugh and walk away. Some of the others got wind of what he was doing and cornered him in the park, circling around him and chanting, turning him into a four-leaf clover for his troubles. So don't forget to wear your green. Once upon a time in the rolling hills of Ireland, there lived a leprechaun named Seamus. Seamus was a mischievous little fella with a twinkle in his eye and a spring in his step. He was known through the land as a skilled trickster, and loved nothing more than playing tricks on unsuspecting humans. One day, as Seamus was skipping through the field, he happened upon a young farmer named Liam. Liam was hard working and honest, but was also quite poor, and had been struggling to make ends meet. Seamus took pity on the young man and decided to help him out. "Follow me, Liam," Seamus cried, darting off into the woods. Liam hesitated for a moment, but decided to trust the Leprechaun and follow him. They journeyed deep into the forest until they came upon a shimmering pool. Seamus pointed to a tree on the far side of the pond. "You see that tree, Liam? The one with the crooked branch? Underneath it lies a pot of gold. It's all yours if you catch me." And with that, Seamus dashed off, laughing gleefully. Liam chased him, but the Leprechaun was too quick. He darted through the forests and streams and hills, always just out of reach. There was a great war, and the king had many soldiers, but gave them small pay, so small they could not live upon it. So three of them agreed among themselves to desert. One of them said to the others, "If we are caught, we shall be hanged on the gallows. How are we to manage it?" Another said, "Look at the great cornfield. If we were to hide ourselves there, no one could find us. The troops are not allowed to enter it, and tomorrow they were to march away." So they crept into the cornfield. Only the troops did not march away. They remained, lying around about it. They stayed in the corn for 2 days and 2 nights. They were so hungry that they all but died. But if they had come out, their deaths would have been certain. They said, "What is the use of deserting if we are to perish miserably here?" But now a fiery dragon came flying through the air, and it came down to them and asked why they had concealed themselves there. They answered, "We are three soldiers who have deserted because the pay was so bad, and now we shall die of hunger if we are to stay here, or to dangle in the galleys if we go out." "If you are to serve me for 7 years," the dragon said, "I will convey you through the army so that no one shall seize you." "We have no choice and are compelled to accept," they replied. The dragon caught hold of them with his claws and carried them away into the air and over the army, and put them down again on earth far away from it. But the dragon was no other than the devil. He gave them small whips and said, "Whip with it and crack it, and then as so much gold will spring up around about as you can wish for. Then you can live like a great lord, keep horses and drive your carriages. But when the 7 years have come to the end, you are my property." Then he put before them a book, which they all three forced to sign. "But first, I will ask you a riddle," he said, "and if you can guess it, you shall be free and released from my power." And then the dragon flew away from them, and they went away with their whips, and had gold aplenty, ordered themselves rich apparel, and travelled about the world. Wherever they were, they lived in pleasure and magnificence, rode on horseback, drove in a carriage, ate and drank, but did nothing wicked. The time slipped quickly by, and when the 7 years were coming to an end, two of them were terribly anxious and alarmed, but the third took the affair easily and said, "Brothers, fear nothing. I still have my wits about me, and I shall guess the riddle." They went into the open country and sat down, and the two pulled sorrowful faces. And an aged woman came up to them, who inquired why they were so sad. "Well," they said, "has that got with you? After all, you cannot help us." "Who knows?" she said. "Just confide with me with your troubles." So they told her that they had been with the devil's servant for nearly 7 years, and that they had provided him with gold as though they were hay, but they had sold themselves to him, and were forfeit to him. And if at the end of 7 years they could not guess the riddle, and the woman said, "If you are to be saved, one of you must go into the forest. There you will come to a fallen rock, which looks like a little house. He must enter that, and then he will obtain help." The two melancholy ones thought to themselves, "That will still not save us," and stayed where they were. But the third, the merry one, got up and walked into the forest until he found a little rock house. In the little house he found an aged woman sitting there, who was the devil's grandmother, and asked the soldier where he came from, and what he wanted. He told everything that had happened, and as he pleased her well, she had pity on him, and said that she would help him. She lifted up a great stone which lay above a cellar, and said, "Conceal yourself here. You can hear everything that is said here. Only sit still, and do not stir. When the dragon comes, I will question him about the riddle. He tells me everything, so listen carefully to the answer." At 12 o'clock that night the dragon came flying thither, and asked for his dinner. The grandmother laid it on the table, and served up food and drink, so that he would be pleased, and they ate and drank together. In the middle of conversation she asked him what kind of day he had, and how many souls had he gotten. "Nothing went very well today," he answered, "but I have laid hold of 3 soldiers. I have them safe." "Indeed, 3 soldiers? They're clever. They might escape you yet." The devil said mockingly, "They are mine. I will set them a riddle which they can never be able to guess." "What riddle is that?" I inquired. "I will tell you. In the great north sea lies a dead dogfish that shall be your roast meat, and the ribs of a whale shall be your silver spoon, and the hollow old horse hoof shall be your wineglass." When the devil goes to bed, the grandmother raises up the stone and lets out the soldier. "Did you give heed to everything?" "Yes," he said, "I know enough. I will save myself." And then he had to go back the other way, through the windows, secretly, and with all speed to his companions. He told them how the devil had been outwitted by an old grandmother, and how he had learned to answer the riddle from him. Then they were all delighted and good cheer, and whipped so much gold for themselves that they ran all over the ground. When the 7 years had fully gone by, the devil came with a book. He showed their signature and said, "I will take your souls with me to hell. There we shall have a meal. If you can guess what kind of roast meat you will have to eat, you shall see yourself free and released from your bargain, and you may keep the whip as well." The first soldier began and said, "The great north lies a sea, a dead dogfish. That, no doubt, is the roasted meat." The devil was angry and began to mutter, "Hum, hum, hum, hum," and asked the second, "But what will your spoon be?" "The ribs of a whale. That is our silver spoon." The devil made a wry face, again growling, and said to the third, "And do you know what our wineglass shall be?" "The old horse hoof is to be our wineglass." The devil flew away with a loud cry, and no more power over them. But the three kept the whips, and whipped as much money for themselves with it as they wanted, and lived happily to their